everybody. Welcome to the Prairie Collection Storage Vault. Today we're going to be talking about this really interesting and unique item. This is what we would call a grain storage unit, and it is made from a hollowed out sycamore tree. So early settlers in Indiana would have used a tree like this to store grain, wheat, different things of that sort. And what would happen when they would procure a tree like this, they would bury it just to about here in the ground. What that would allow them to do would keep pests and insects from being able to get up into the grain, keep mice out, things like that. And then they would cover it with boards like you see here all the way across and place weighted stones on top of that. So the tree was too thick for insects to bore through. Having it down, buried into the ground a little bit, protected the base of it, and then they would store their grain through here for the winter, for livestock, etc. The interesting thing about this particular grain storage unit is, as I said, it was made from a sycamore tree. Sycamore trees tend to grow hollow, as do certain gum trees. They are all able to do this mainly because the outside of the tree stays alive while a fungus actually rots the heartwood on the inside of the tree. So the living part of the tree, where all of the veins of the tree are, remains intact, but all of the hardwood inside just rots away. And so when these trees fall or are cut down, eventually you will often find them hollow like this. So this tree is indicative of the old growth forest that would have been in the area at the time that pioneers, settlers were arriving in the early 19th century. This particular tree is just really fascinating example of how large these trees used to be, how big these old growth forests in the area were. And one thing that not everyone is aware of is that Indiana used to be a very densely forested state. So if you look across now, you see all kinds of farmland and things like that, but all of that was cleared out in a very short period of time in the early 19th century. And this is a good example of how large some of those trees used to be in this area. There are some anecdotes about, we've heard here and there stories of the fact that basically from the Ohio Valley all the way over to the Great Plains, it was one large dense forest, and there are some anecdotes about a squirrel being able to travel from Ohio to Illinois without ever touching the ground through these forests. So it gives you an idea of how densely forested the area was and how much deforestation occurred in such a short period of time. This is not the only grain storage unit that we have on site here at Prairie. If you have been out to visit the Golden Eagle Inn and you happen to make your way back into the barn there, we do have one that is actually being used in the way that it would have been used at the time. Recently we had to go through and clean it out. Another thing, I mentioned earlier that these would have been buried slightly into the ground. If you look here at the base of the storage unit here, the base of the trunk, you can actually see the mud line that existed from when this particular unit was buried. This is one of my favorite objects in the collection because it is one of the oldest objects that we have, and I think that there are multiple stories that come out of it that are very interesting. So it's one of my favorite to show people when I take them into the vault. Thank you for joining us today. I always love the opportunity to be able to show off some of the items in our collection, and this is a particular favorite of mine, so I'm glad we were able to share this with you this time.